Welcome to the Soul Infused Monday Show, your show for an inspired and meaningful week. Thank you for coming back to listen, learn, to connect. And today's topic is about the inner patriarch. And before I dive in, I want to check who is in the house today. Who is here live with me today? Leave me a comment, say hello. And I know it takes a moment. And if you're watching this already on the replay, take a moment to take a nice deep breath. Maybe you get a glass of water, you remove any distractions so that you can be fully present in the here and now with me. And this is going to be an interesting topic today. So who is live already watching? Let me know if you're here and see me. And I'm going to dive in just a moment. So I'm going to wait, take a breath, and I invite you to do the same. Just take a nice deep breath as we are allowing other people to join live. And if you are live and you feel open to share that you are here, leave a comment. Hi, Emily. Fantastic that you made it live today. Okay, another 3 breaths, and then we get the show started. Take this moment to really let go of what anything else that was going on a few minutes ago. Allow yourself to become present in the here and the now. And in case you get hit by inspiration or something, grab a pen and a paper. Okay, so hi Tina, hi Pamela. I'm gonna dive in. Welcome to the Soul Infused Monday Show. Today's topic, the inner patriarch and how it holds women back. This is your show for an inspired and meaningful week, and thank you for coming back to listen, learn, and grow. I was inspired to talk about this today. I am still in Germany, and in my sister's basement, there was still a box of some of my books. Now, I'm not going to take these books with me, and they're all in German. However, I picked up one of the books that I remembered back in the days that made a big impact and that I've been working on a lot. And it's a book from Cedra Stone. Now, I don't know if you know Hal and Cedra Stone. They are the founders of the voice dialogue method. And I was privileged and honored and blessed enough back in the days to got personally trained by them. And that was at a time when they weren't doing any group trainings anymore. And I did that training while I was doing my energy therapist training. And I have the German version here. So if you're listening and you don't see, but I'm showing a book for any German-speaking people here. The book in German looks like this and is called Es ist Zeit, dass du gehst. You see it? Yeah. The English version of it is called The Shadow Queen from Cedra Stone. And so I was going through those books and I thought, oh, this is a good book. And even though I like to read German so much anymore, I started to reread it again after so many years. And it inspired me to talk about it today, not necessarily as teaching it or giving a solution for it. It's more about bringing it into your awareness. Maybe you are aware of it already, or maybe you're not. But I hope that it will give you food for inspiration, for exploration. And it is also similar to some of the other subpersonalities or voices in us, like the inner critic, that are operating often totally unconscious in your life. And as a disclaimer, I'm going to scratch the surface, obviously. I'm not going to go so deep. There is certainly work to be done if it's something that you struggle with. And maybe you don't even know yet that you're struggling with because you're not aware of it. And I'm only going to stretch the surface. And I also want to say that also men have an inner patriarch. However, I'm going to focus on women, especially because that force, that voice, that self that is in us operating is obviously out there in the open and the outside. But in women, it is like an invisible force sometimes. Like it's so hidden and so subtle and so ingrained in the psyche that you don't even recognize it as such. So I want to bring this up to your awareness today, give you a few pointers, and invite you to explore that. Now, what is the inner patriarch and what is a subpersonality? So the concept is, and voice dialogue explains it very beautifully. And the inner patriarch is the same as, for example, the inner child or the inner critic or the pusher or another part of our personality. We all are constructed of many different parts. And some of them are more obvious and present and primary in your life. And then we have those that we call the disowned, the hidden ones that we are not aware, but they kind of operate anyway. It's like a program system. So you have some programs that you see and they run and you know them and you work with them and you like them or you know how to deal with them. And then there are plenty programs in the background that you don't even know they're running. However, they impact and influence your life. And what the inner patriarch does is it has a lot of rules. It has a lot of rules, and we live in a patriarchy. Depending on which country you are, most everybody knows, or this whole world is led or is conditioned or is influenced by the patriarchy. And as a woman, having that voice internalized, hidden, invisible, makes it sometimes even worse because you are acting out on it in a way that you might not be even aware why. And that inner voice, the inner patriarch, is designed to keep us down, hold us back, tells us that we are no good in many different other ways. But it also has a lot of rules about, okay, how are women supposed to be at the workplace? What are they supposed to do when it comes to relationship? What are they meant to be? What are they meant to be? It's like this whole gender battle that is obviously also played out on the outside is happening inside without you even knowing. Now, before I even continue, I want to know, how does that sound to you? Have you heard about this before? Have you worked on that before? Is this a new idea? How does that sound? Now, I want to also say that the inner patriarch is not only bad. It has value, and it was created like the inner critic in the beginning. For like the inner critic, for example, was developed to protect ourselves from shame and pain in the very early stages, so it has a good intention. Now, the inner patriarch is different. However, it also has value, and you can take value out of it only when you are aware of it. So it's not about judging it. It's not about fighting it. It's about being aware of it, exploring it, getting to know your own inner patriarch, because they're individually very different, even though foundational, they're kind of like the same. But everybody has their own unique flavor and programming in addition. So there's also good at it in that. So I'm not saying judge it, fight it, be aware of it. Explore your inner patriarch. And maybe you ask yourself, oh, how do I do that? Or I'm not so sure. But you can sometimes even, you can play with a question. If you are noticing you're holding yourself back, something is holding yourself back. You wanted to do something, but you're too scared. Or you want to say something and you feel like you talk yourself out of it because you think you're not good enough, or any other, or setting a boundary or something. You can ask yourself the question, how would I act Or what would I do in the situation if I would be a man? Just very just ask a question and see what voice comes up and see what you would respond. It's very interesting. Well, how would you feel about this if you would be a man? And oftentimes the first, and I've done this with my inner patriarch and, worked with clients as well. Of my inner patriarch often says like, I wouldn't care. I would just do it. That's the energy. It's like, I wouldn't care. I would just do it. Right? So find the voice in whichever way that works for you. Of course, if it's something that you want to explore deeper and you want to understand it more, and it's really also creating struggle in your life, and you want to do the work, you want to do the inner work. As a therapist and coach, that's what I do with my clients as well. And I do also have a resource about the inner critic that you can rewatch, or if you've never listened to it, to listen to it again, to understand and work through it in the same way that you would work with the inner critic. Does that make sense? So I'm going to check your comments real quick, and you find that Inner Critic webinar that is totally for free on my website, and I'm going to leave the link here. It's called the Self-Love Cure, and you can check it out on my website. Sonia Bueno de la Torre /self/love/cure. So I want to take a moment to, will you write the author's name, please? Yes, I'm doing it right now. She's called Sidra Stone. I'm going to write it here, and I'm also going to write it out there. So give me a moment. Give me a moment. Ask and it is given. The shadow king. So, Sidra Stone, the Shadow King. So let me see. Hi, Denise. Great to see you here today. Yes, the patriarch is in me is a powerful and damaging. Yeah, it's a very powerful force. Very, very powerful. And because it's internalized, again, it's not against. I'm not talking about, oh, we're fighting now the patriarchy. It's more tuning inside and seeing what is it doing in me and what is my inner patriarch doing. And it's about us also doing the work to value yourself more, to be aware of those voices, those rules, so that instead of being blindly driven by it or being on autopilot, that you have awareness so that you can choose which rules do you want to follow or not. That you can come from a place of an aware ego versus just being driven by that without even noticing. And it's not it's not going to happen overnight. It's really exploring maybe something new. Or if you've done this work, because I've done this work with the inner patriarch, I mean, that's over a decade ago, and I kept working on myself. And right now I'm noticing as well, because I'm tuning in. It shows up a lot in many areas. However, it does particularly damage a lot in intimate relationships, sexuality, in the workplace, but especially also in intimate relationships and dating, or when we meet someone, or in any type of partnership. And of course, also in the workplace, because besides of the outside patriarchy that, even though there's equal pay, it's really not the reality yet. But what does happen internally? And when you work through that and you explore your inner patriarch and you do the work to free yourself and be aware of it so that you can balance it out and you can choose, then it will create a ripple effect. And I think for us women, the more we do the work, because the patriarchy damages men and women and any other gender. It's just something that is not only a force within us, but I'm focusing today on women. And it's also a bully. Yeah, it can feel like a bully. Yeah. And also the package, you know, you have the inner patriarch that is often very hidden. You might hear it, you might experience it in a different way, or you might think that is you, has a lot of rules, and then the inner critic helps to reinforce them. So through criticism, that stays reinforced. Does that make sense? For example, let's say the inner patriarch, and for them, like any woman is the same. Like any woman, like men are better than women. Women are supposed to, you know, whatever your rules are, but they're supposed to stay in the house. They are too much. That whatever the version is, but they are just less. Women are less. They're not equal. And when you have that as a foundation, unconscious and hidden, and then the inner critic jumps in and tells you that you're not good. So you are busy with the self-judgment, and you don't recognize that it's actually a conditioning that comes even from a deeper collective historical evolutionary patriarchy. I bully myself, my husband, and so forth. I hear you. I was not aware of the inner patriarch. Outer, yes, interesting topic. Yeah, I'm happy you're here. You never know when you learn something new. Okay, good. I just want to make sure I have all the comments here. Okay, good. So, as I said in the beginning, my intention for today was mainly to just put it out there for you to explore and to play and to put it in your awareness, because sometimes I've learned so much over the last 2 decades that I incorporated, and often I don't necessarily say that term, or it's so normal for me that I sometimes forget that nobody and not everybody knows this, right? And I feel right now at this time in the world, it's an important topic because things are shifting. Things are challenging also. However, things are also shifting. And when things are shift, they are crooked at first, or they're kind of, we feel awkward. And sometimes we fall backwards before we move forward. And to really dig deep and revisit what is moving inside of me, and the shift and the openness to gender equality, or, you know, women's rights, and so many things that are happening in the world that are shifting things deep underneath. This is still very strong and operating. And the most important thing that I wanted to convey today, it's what it is that you doing, not you, but in a way, until you are aware, what is it doing to you internally? What are you doing? It's like a broken record that has internalized. You don't even notice. It's so subtle sometimes. I'll give you an example from the book that I just remembered. So Sidra shares an experience from her childhood, and I can share a few of mine, and maybe it resonates with you, how subtle that is, or how it's so normal. So she was playing as a child when she was a little girl with a friend of hers in the living room. I don't remember exactly the game, but she was feeling exhilarated. She was winning. She was feeling great about herself. And so the boy was losing. Now her mother took her to a side and said, "Let the boy win. Boys don't like to lose, especially not against a girl." That, I mean, we've heard this many times. It's so subtle, but that's what you often learn as a girl, because someone says, "Hey, let them win." That's just one example, right? Or when I noticed that the other day when I was talking to someone that I was interested in, and so we're talking, sharing, and at some point I noticed myself getting a little bit insecure and nervous, and I felt like, oh, I don't want to be too much. don't be too much, right? And I was like, wow, where is that coming from? And so I was tuning into, it's like, okay, certain rules about, what is okay, how much are you being okay, how much is too much? And I was listening to that voice. And because I was aware of it, I could breathe through it and be as I wanted to be. Of course, I might still be afraid of rejection or that somebody might judge me, and that's okay. We all have those fears, and yet, it didn't matter. It didn't change for me who I am and what I share. Does that make sense to you? Of course, there's so much more that I can say, but what I want to invite you for this week is explore it. Look inside yourself and outside and imagine, okay, what does my inner patriarch says? How do I see the world here? And how would I see it now if I would be a man? And what are the rules? And what are the conditioning that I got that I might have not been aware? So explore it in a playful way. Imagine as if you would be someone that gets to know someone new, and you didn't even know it. Maybe it's a new neighbor. Maybe this neighbor was living there with you already 10, 20, 30, 50, 60 years, and you didn't even know about this neighbor. Now you kind of knock on the door and you look and peek and look into the window and you observe this new neighbor. You get to know him. And if you have a question or if you want to take this further, there are different ways to do that. First of all, if this is resonating with you, if you feel this is a subject that you want to dive a little deeper and you are someone that likes to read books, I recommend the book The Shadow King from Sidra Stone. Helen Sidra Stone's books are all amazing. I was trained by them personally. That is still one of the best things I've ever done. And then if you want to dig deeper and do the work, because we all need work, that's what I do with my clients, that's what I did with myself. And it's about awareness. It's not about judging. It's not about fighting the system. It's not about rebelling. It's about first looking inward, embracing, getting to know so that you can choose and you can liberate yourself. It's an ongoing journey. And I think as a whole in this world, women get to liberate themselves and you value themselves. You get to value yourself first. You got to feel equal. You got to feel and knowing. And of course, the system needs to change. And of course, there's other big other forces. But one thing that you can do is to do the inner work to liberate yourself. And if you want to see the self-love cure or listen to it, I think it's an audio that talks about the inner critic. It will give you a little bit also of a background on the psyche and why these parts are here and how they operate and how you can also work to separate yourself. So take a moment, take a deep breath, tune in, and let me know what resonated with you today. What's your takeaway? What is your takeaway today? Just take a breath, tune in. What is your takeaway from today? I know it was only scratching the surface here, and yet I hope I gave you enough food for thought. And I would love to hear what is your takeaway from today. What is your takeaway? And leave me a comment, send me a message, leave a review. I always love to hear from you. So I'm going to take a moment and check your comments, and then I let you go explore your inner patriarch. It's new for me, but interesting. Great. I like knowing it's bigger and more evolutionary, and I'm not the only one. Oh my goodness. Yeah, good. I'm going to take this one, that you're not the only one. No. First of all, an inner patriarch, I mean, it just exists in everyone, and in women particularly strong. So you are so far from being alone and the only one. So yeah, this is a great takeaway. So much bigger. I really relate to the voice saying, don't be too much. Yes, yeah. Also relates a lot to boundaries. Next time you want to set a boundary, and I say the boundary because I know Tine, who just shared that comment. If you're struggling to say no or set a boundary, just ask yourself for a moment, if I would be a man, what would I do? I'm pretty sure if you listen to that voice, it's like, well, I say no, I don't care. So there's also some things that you can pick from the inner patriarch that is actually valuable as well. So it's not, again, it's not only bad. It was a reminder that it comes back to working on what is within me. It's not out there. Yeah, good takeaway. And you're right, it is out there. It's big out there. However, that's out there, that's obvious. But what it does to you internally, that's where you can do something about it, and where it has the grip on you stronger than on the outside, especially the time that we're living now. We, as women, compare looking back, we have more freedom, at least in most Western countries, than before. So the outer patriarchy is still there and it's obvious. However, it's not as obvious as you would think. So you might not pay attention, but internally, it is so real in there. I can tell you, right? It's there. So thank you for being here today. I look forward to seeing you again on another episode of Soul Infused Monday. May you have a wonderful week. Remember to take deep breaths, explore your inner patriarch. And if you want to have resources, get the book or the free audio here on my website. I just put it there again. And if you have any follow-up questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Much love.